Hello there, and welcome back to episode number 48 of Inside the Vault. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and my guest today here on Inside the Vault is a former NFL wide receiver, played at the University of Pittsburgh collegiately, former track and field Olympian, and he is now the coach over at Prime Time Scouting, which I will let him tell you about as we go through the episode. But let's welcome to the program Coach Elbert Ellis. Coach, how's it going today?
Sir, it's going just fine. Thank you for having me on your show. Greatly appreciate it. Humbled completely.
Well, you are an original Carolina Panther, as I did say at the top, former NFL receiver with the Carolina Panthers, first edition in 1995. Before we get into today's plethora of Panthers and just kind of the organization over the past 5, 6, 7 years and David Tepper's tenure as owner, talk about the 1995 Carolina Panthers and just the original teams that you were on there in Charlotte and what that meant to you, what being part of the keep pounding era that Sam Mills kind of crafted a little bit later on, being part of this organization in the Carolinas.
One thing I can say about the Panthers at that time, they were very warm and inviting. It was a real team. It was a bunch of veteran guys that they pulled from other teams, some younger guys like myself who were going into their second year, and some other rookies too. They were first class. One thing I can say that normally when you have a travel team, you only take about 45 guys. During the time they were putting together and every time they cut, they were taking everybody. I had never seen that. I remember Dom Capers one week, they had to do some financial things. He pulled me aside and said, Elbert, look, we're going to have to cut you for a week. He said, go back to the hotel, eat, relax, don't do anything. Just we're going to bring you back one following week. I said, on Tuesday, Elbert, I made some other moves. I need you to come practice. Oh, wow. So they were first class. I saw Coach Capers every day. He ran one hell of a defense for the Steelers, and they chose the right guy for that. I remember that distinctly. In fact, I think some of the guys, when I first got there and I had my tryout, did well and was at the first practice, they said, oh, do you know Pharaoh? I said, who is Pharaoh? They said, Coach Capers. I said, oh, my God, that's his nickname? So, but otherwise, it was a great time. First class, great guys, Don Beebe, Frank Reich, Kerry Collins, Metzelars, just some wonderful dudes, man.
Yeah. One of the we'll get to Frank Reich in a little bit, but one of the ones that I wanted to mention was you mentioned Kerry Collins. I'll get to him in a little bit too. But Kevin Green, rest in peace. He was a former Panther, obviously also a former Pittsburgh Steeler, which you obviously played up in the Steel City as well. Hall of Famer Kevin Green, talk to me about his influence on your career, whether that was in Pittsburgh or Carolina, someone that meant a lot to a lot of folks, not only in Charlotte, but around the NFL, and someone that really made his mark in his short time with the Panthers towards the end of his career.
In my rookie year, what I observed from that guy, he loved football. I'm talking one thing that they would call it first Okie was the first defense. And when Don Capers would say first Okie, he's running onto the field, first Okie, putting his helmet on, acting crazy, doing the Hulk Hogan at the games. Incredible dude. Wasn't the fastest. He was definitely strong. I'm watching him get sacks. Greg Lewis he was a problem on that football field. And that dude loved the game and he knew the game. He was a student of the game. Maybe you saw him coaching later on in his career, rest in peace. But great dude. All I can say is that one heck of a teammate. He was hungry all the time, man, all the time.
Yeah. Another one that you just mentioned was Kerry Collins, who played at Penn State collegially and was a Carolina Panther for a short time there. And then he bounced around the league a little bit and was able to back up guys later in his career, like Vince Young over at Tennessee and New York Giants as well. So another Panther, I think, that kind of laid the foundation for this team. A lot of fans may not consider him one of the more important Panthers, but what I do only because he was actually one of the first years that I started watching the Panthers. It was actually when he was quarterback. So I appreciated kind of his first foundation with the team and what he was able to do in setting my fandom up, at a young age.
Absolutely, absolutely. One thing I loved about Kerry, he had a wonderful touch ball. The ball was it wasn't coming too slow, it wasn't coming too fast. It was always coming at a tempo, and it was where for my young self where I could catch it fairly easy. So I really like catching his passes. You
Mhm.
know, there's a lot of guys like Elway, they're throwing the ball 70 miles an hour. Good old Drew Bledsoe. I want to give everybody middle finger, but this finger's never going to be straight ever again because he's throwing the ball at practice, and he dislocated my finger the second day of off season when I was playing for the Patriots back in the day. So I really appreciated Kerry taking some mustard off the ball so I can catch it and keep my fingers intact. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Moving on now as we continue to go through the years of the Panthers, we get to 2001. That was when we had Sam Mills was obviously there as a coach at that time. Steve Berline had just finished his quarterbacking as well. That was actually my second quarterback in my fandom, if I remember correctly. Um, and we win our first game in Minnesota, and then they lose 15 straight into that 2001 season. Um, whether you've been on a team like that or not, describe for listeners kind of obviously we know what losing feels like, right? But when you go through a season like that, whether you've done it personally or know people who have, you know, what does that do to you? Is it motivate you to come out the next year and just be to get that taste out of your mouth? Is it just hard going through it at the time? Like, because I have to imagine, winning your first game and then losing literally the rest of the games that season. And the Lions, they went 0, I think 16 back in 2008. So what does that do to a team as they're going through it? Does that motivate them? Does it kind of just sucks as you go through it, or what is the what does that do to a team?
Number one, it sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. First off, it just plain sucks. You're wondering about yourself if you're doing enough. You're good enough because one of my favorite movies is Any Given Sunday. And
Yes.
I've seen a team that is technically horrible during the year and they'll beat the top team in their division or in the league. It just depends, were the guys able to play for that particular coach, those coaches, what was going on in the front office. It's a bunch. When you look, they always say winning changes everything. So when you're losing, you're really scared to death because
Yeah.
your job is on the line and the coach's job's on the line. And these guys chose you to keep you there. And now they might not be there and you may not be there. So it's a whole different level of pressure as opposed to winning, as opposed to losing. It's a lot. It's a lot. And it's just not good. It's not good at all.
Yeah. Well, before we get into today's iteration of the Panthers, and as we keep going up, I'll fast forward a decent amount of time. After those 2001 Panthers had that 1-15 foundation, 2002 we drafted Julius Peppers, and we went a little bit better record. I think it was 6 or 7 wins, if I'm not mistaken. There, and then 2003, the next year, third year in John Fox's or second year in John Fox's tenure after George Seifert in '01, the team goes on this Super Bowl run, starting with Rodney Peete getting replaced by Jake Delhomme in the Jacksonville Jaguars game, and Raheem Pearl catching the last second touchdown pass. And it just goes on this wild ride. Um, Talk about Sam Mills. I mean, the keep pounding is where this started with him and his battle with cancer. Another rest in peace as well. And Dan Morgan, who's currently the general manager for the Panthers, I remember him talking during that time and saying, in the locker room, you could just your hair was on fire, like listening to Sam speak, and just the way he had with words and the way he could just motivate people, both as a player and as a coach. That is someone. If I played football, I know I would have wanted to play for him based on what I've heard. And I never played football, but from what if I did, I definitely would have wanted to play for someone like that.
Um, if I can say anything about Sam Mills, it's a once in a lifetime type of guy. God does some wonderful things with people when he makes people like that are special like that handle the burden of being the leader on the team and then being a coach and a leader in life and fighting cancer to the very end. Not too many people like him. Not too many. I'm glad he's in the Panther Hall of Fame. That that he start the whole thing, keep pounding it. It's nothing but a momentum and a momentous reminder of who he is, what he is, and what the Panthers should be. Should be relentless, not giving up, that type of thing. That's who he was. And me watching him play middle linebacker was ridiculous that first year. Nobody that small should be out there tackling people the way he was. No. Mm-mm. No.
Yeah. Well, we keep going. So the Super Bowl, as we know, ended with the loss to New England. We keep going throughout the Panthers' history, and I'll just kind of fast forward a little bit. You know, Julius Peppers, as we mentioned, comes through. Dave Morgan was on that Super Bowl team. We keep going. We've got guys like Jake Delhomme coming through. We've got guys like let's go back. Jimmy Clausen comes through for a minute, and then Cam Newton, 2011 Rookie of the Year. Cam is that guy. He comes and sets a rookie record, 400 yards passing in his rookie debut. And then same thing, not quite Super Bowl, but struggle out of Cam's rookie year. And then 2 years later in 2013, 12-4, team makes the playoffs in their third year once again. And Ron Rivera is now the coach now after moving on from John Fox. That is how the Panthers made the playoffs in that third year. So all this to say, we keep going now. Cam Newton, Luke Kuechly's of the world, Charles Johnson, Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams, a lot of players that I'm leaving out. Thomas Davis. I know I'm leaving out a lot of players. We come through, and now David Tepper is now the owner. Jerry Richardson sells the team after some controversies hit, and another, God rest his soul, a man. Before we get into the current version of the Panthers, did you ever get to meet the Big Cat? Did you ever get to talk with him? What was your impressions of him owning the Panthers before we get into David Tepper?
So, Mr. Richardson,
Yep.
like I said, the Panthers were first class. I remember him going around shaking my hand, making welcome to the team, just like I've been there the whole time. I don't have anything negative to say. Was very kind, seemed like a pretty humble guy. Whatever issues there were, I didn't know about him at that time. But all I know is he treated us well. That's all I know. That's
Yeah.
all I know. I couldn't even I had trouble practicing after lunch. They fed us too well. I was
A
was
lot of
struggling.
teams, I hear that's the case for sure.
Yeah.
So we get into then David Tepper in 2018. He buys the team. Panthers ownership is now under a new leaf. And then we go through what seems like a bunch of coaches and quarterbacks these days, starting with Matt Rule, bringing in Teddy Bridgewater. And then we go through Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Matt Corral, Frank Reich. And I'll stop at Frank Reich for a second before we get into the current 2024 Panthers. You said you were with Frank Reich. He's a pastor, I know, on the side. He's a man of faith. Talk to me about Frank Reich, your time with him playing, and then as a coach, not just with the Panthers, but just at his other stops as offensive coordinator for the Eagles and others in the NFL. I'll get to my coaching question in a second, but talk to me about Frank Reich, the person, the player, and your time with him.
Remember being in we have chapel Bible
Yep.
studies. I remember him leading one when I was playing for the Jets. Incredible man of God, very humble. He still has one of the greatest comebacks in the history of a playoff game. I think.
Yes, Buffalo Bills. Yep.
Yeah, what can you say? I mean, sometimes coaching and doesn't correlate with how you're dealing with certain players. Some people grasp what you're saying, and some of them don't. I don't know, but otherwise, as a pastor, as a man of faith, overall guy, and also one heck of a player, I appreciate having him around. Learned a lot from him. Didn't see him, never saw him quit. Never really saw him down on himself. Never saw him downing somebody when they're dropping the class, when they're messing up. Never saw that. Sometimes that happens a lot. You got a couple quarterbacks, they're superstars, and they can do no wrong. And it's all your fault, but they threw the ball 3 feet over your head. That type of thing. Never saw that with him, ever.
And then he comes in after Steve Wilkes took over the interim job after Matt Rule won many games going forward. Decided not to move on with him as the permanent head coach. Frank Reich comes in. What do you think, in your estimation, what do you think happened with Frank Reich's tenure as a Panther last year with the coaching staff. Do you feel like just in the games that he was with the Panthers, what do you think went on there that led to Tepper pulling the plug after 1 year?
Uh, Pretty much, if you and I'm just whoever you're choosing, whoever you want for the team, you're really fighting with people from the front office.
Mhm.
You know, you're fighting with the owner, with it, and you might not have gotten the guys that you wanted to get.
Mhm.
And will every guy play for every coach? No, they won't. You know, this is a different group of young people. You know, the money's even more than when I played. The minimum salary for a person who's on the roster was $119,000. You know, that is pennies compared to what it is now just to be on the roster for football. Egos are same but different at the same time. And will they play for you? You know, will the guys say, do they believe in you? Or do they believe in what you're doing? Don't know. I wish I was there to know. I wish I was actually reporting, even could have talked to players or something back then to see what was the issue. You know, don't really know. Only people that know people who were in that front office and who's coaching and who's picking during the draft and all this stuff and off-season moves won't really know. You know, him as a person, great. Maybe didn't correlate as a coach. Don't know. Really can't say. Maybe they just didn't want him. You know, they thought he wasn't this enough, stern enough, wasn't enough fire. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Steve Wilkes was someone that right before him, when you're an interim coach, he goes on this run. The players play for him. They enjoy what he brought. Obviously, he's from West Charlotte, Appalachian State alum, so he's from the Carolinas. He has that connection. Obviously, doesn't work out with the Panthers. Goes to San Francisco. Unfortunately, does not work out there. And he's now coaching at my alma mater, UNC Charlotte. Special assistant to Biff Poggi. I love that guy. Talk about Steve Wilkes, his passion for the Carolinas and just this area in Charlotte, and what he means not only to the Panthers but just to the Carolinas in general. Someone like him.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, he did win a few games when he took over, correct?
He did.
I don't understand why they didn't keep rolling the dice. I mean, I just how many homeboys do we have that this is their home? They want to be here. You're from Charlotte, and you took over a team, and we won games, and the guys played for you. I don't understand. Not the personal. I just
Yeah.
makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
If that guy is getting the job done, he has the same players. Hey, hey, let the guy do what he needs to do. But now he's at UNC Charlotte. Maybe he can continue to help advising the coaches and the staff and the school and really get their program to take a couple tiers up to another level. I thought he was a great coach, me personally. Now I
Yeah.
think I was at a game or two. Thought he was a great coach, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we now get to 2024 version of the Panthers. Bryce Young, number 1 overall pick selected in last year's 2023 draft. Bringing Andy Dalton, who was left over from the Frank Reich era as well. He was originally signed to play for Reich. And we bring in Dave Canales, the head coach this current season for the Panthers. Before we get into Bryce Young specifically, I personally think Andy Dalton should have sat, or excuse me, played last year, and Bryce should have sat. That's my personal opinion. Obviously, that did not happen. Water under the bridge now. Bryce has been benched, as we know now, and Andy Dalton came out against the Las Vegas Raiders, and he put on a show. So before I ask you about Andy Dalton, do you think it was the right move to bench Bryce, number one? And number two, do you see him playing for the Panthers again, whether that's this year or next season?
Uh, Absolutely, it was the right move because we see production immediately. That's the same group of guys that you were just trying to lead down the field, and it wasn't working. It is very, very difficult in your first and second year. You don't have a Cam Newton year all the time. Everybody doesn't come in a rookie and just go ballistic and berserk and everything. And even your second year is hard because everybody's already seen you. And one thing I know about football coaches, they do 16-hour days every day, all the time, period. So they're going to figure you out. Okay. They're going to figure you out. If you got a person like Tom Brady with his clicker, who might have a clicker on, he might have
Yeah.
a clicker. Yeah. He sleeps with the clicker. So, how you going to be? So that's what's happening. So Bryce has a lot of growing to do, and he didn't get a chance to sit on the side and watch the game. Now he is. He's getting a good. It's different from being up under that than being on the side and be like, oh, not that you can have the clicker, but it's a little different from that sideline.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little different feeling. You're getting the plays coming down here. I'm relaying it to the guy, and I'm connected to him, and I'm trying to see what he's seeing. So, being able to pull on a veteran like that, I think it's going to be key for him to grow because he just hasn't seen enough. And the first thing I asked him when I went down there for the football classic kickoff, the Panthers had us come down.
Yep.
And and you saw it, I sent you a little picture of him and everything that we were sitting there talking. I said, "Hey man, you healthy?" He said, "No, I'm good. I'm good." That's what I'm concerned about because I'm a huge dude. He is not a big man at all, and there are some monsters out there to play football. And he took a lot of hits last year, way too many hits. They couldn't block the backside of a backboard with a banjo last year. So I mean, we were struggling. So I was concerned about his health, But now it's the mental part. What can we do up here? Because we know you were talented. We know you're good. It's just that can we get you to perform and learn what you need to learn, make the reads you need to make, and get that ball out your hand. And we need a running game, a consistent running game, which we had a pretty good running game this past week with Andy Dalton back there slinging that bad boy. Yeah.
Yeah, and last one on Bryce. I feel like just from what I've seen and what I've heard from the locker room, the guys really appreciated his attentiveness and sitting. He was in Coach Canales' ear. He was in Dalton's ear during that first game in Las Vegas, and really not sulking, not being up by himself. Like he was taking everything in. So my question is, do you think his confidence is shot and he needs to just build that back up? And that's really all kind of this benching was, is the lack of confidence. And how hard is that to really take some humble pie, sit on the sidelines and learn, being that he was thrust in there and now he's going to the bench, and so take us through, what's he thinking about? What's his confidence level like? It's I'm just going to ask it. Some people have said, he should ask for a trade. I personally don't think he should. I don't think the Panthers would blame him if he did, but I don't think he should. What are your thoughts on Bryce's mental headspace? And you said you obviously were talking to him. Where do you think he's at currently and for the rest of the year?
Confidence might be a little shaken due to performance. That's natural. That would probably go with anybody,
Mhm.
you know. But him being the team player he's being by talking to the guys, not sulking, shows maturity. And that's one thing he's going to need in this league is to mature and to learn his craft. I don't think it would be wise for him to pack up his bags and leave yet from experience. Me trying to wait my turn and having to sit on the bench and me leaving a team too soon cost me a lot. It actually shortened my career by years. You don't want to do that, I don't think. Unless there's some opportunity just going to be so good, so great, and it shouldn't just be about money all the time. But a paycheck is a paycheck, and if it's good, it's good. You take it. But sometimes that can lead the wrong way for you because all money's not good money, as a good friend of mine says, Mark Everett, and my pastor, Bishop Al Morgan. They tell me, all money's not good money. So being in the right place, right time, and if he can learn and wait his turn, that's going to be key. If I was him, I would probably sit another year or so if I could, and take all I can, take the backup reps, and then when the season comes around, off season, compete and try to win my job back, just
Yeah.
like anybody else would.
Yeah. Let's get into Andy Dalton now. He throws for 4 touchdown passes, or 3 touchdown passes rather, against the Las Vegas Raiders, 327 yards passing in the victory over the Vegas Raiders. Now he gets on his redemption tour. Stop number 1, Cincinnati, who his longest tenured team is at home this coming up year or week against Joe Burrow in the 0-3 Bengals. So talk about what you're going to see in that game from him. But before you do, first question, how hard, I don't think fans understand, how hard is it to go out there? He literally did not start a year prior against Seattle, and then he starts 1 calendar year almost to the day later against the Vegas Raiders. How hard is that to go out there almost a year removed from your last start and do what he did? Because I don't think people appreciate just how good that he looked.
Well, as people say, for me, in my eyes, he's always been one of those dudes. Always. When he was quarterbacking for Cincinnati, he was no slouch. He would move the ball. He took. I saw him take some vicious hits in the league he was playing in. He's always been a winner to me. And some things just have to be timing in the right frame. And he is really a mature dude and understands the game. As you can see, you saw him carve Las Vegas up. How many yards was it?
327
319
yards passing.
yards, 3 TDs, 30 points total, 36, 26 to 37.
Yep.
Shucks,
Yeah.
man. So
He was the red rifle for sure. That rifle was banging out plays left and right. Throws were on the money. Um, it
look,
was it was a sight to see.
I was loving it. I was loving every last bit of it because a lot of guys don't get the due they deserve, and I think he deserves a little more than what people give him. I mean, to come in like that, like you said, almost a year removed, and come up there and say, you know what? I'm just gonna throw cards to the wind and go out here and play football. That's how you play football. That's what football is. That's what it is. So I'm hoping he does this for the rest of the year. To be honest with you, I love the redhead guy. I like seeing what he does. The beard's a whole different thing. I was like, hey, what's that right there? You need
Yeah.
just like when
And so going into this week now against the Bengals, what do you hope to see not only from Andy but from also the team as the Panthers try to even their record at 500 on the season? And what are you looking for from the team going into this home game against Cincinnati, who is 0-3? We know that's shocking for the Bengals. They historically do start slow, but 0-3. I did not see this coming for Cincinnati. I don't think a lot of people did. So thoughts on this matchup and what you want to see from the team this Sunday?
well, let's talk about three phases of the game. And we always forget about the kicking game's got to be solid. Field goals, the guy's got to punt that ball. I believe the punter, he punted 3 times. Uh, yeah, no, excuse me, I'm sorry. He had a kicker punted 4 times, averaged 44 yards, 2 were inside the 20. Longest one was 51. That's that's good field position. That's good chess playing right there. If we need a field goal, we're gonna need a field goal. We're gonna need some returns from the punt return guy. I mean, I think they kept it out there a couple of up somewhere around the 20 or so. If they did return or whatever, they just didn't go ahead and let the ball go in the end zone. That's gonna be important. But we gotta be able to run that football and give Andy, so he wanted to just go out there and be one-sided, because if you become one-sided, then the defense starts pinning their ears back, and that's not what we want. Don't want that. So we need a good balance of run, great, the right passes, the right game plan. They got to call the right game plan, because this team doesn't want to be on foot. Burrow is no slouch at all,
Mm-hmm.
and you're playing your old team, so that becomes emotional and personal. That can be a lot. That can be a lot for him to have to swallow and handle, and I hope he can handle it.
Yeah, and their defense, on defense, what are you looking for there? I thought the run game against the Raiders was much better, stopping the run. I know the Raiders are last in the league in rushing, but that's okay. You got to start somewhere. Without Derek Brown, this team has just got to continue to improve against the run and play that tenacious defense that the Panthers are known for. I thought J.C. Horn had an outstanding game against Devontae Adams, and he's got to lead the charge back in that secondary.
Absolutely. And Jackson had 9 tackles that game too. So, and I think they had 3 sacks as a team as well. Maybe 1 interception too by the team, 1 or 2. Yeah, I think it was 1. Sorry about it. Yeah, but defense has to remain solid. More 3-and-outs they can get, the better, and the offense can keep the defense off the field and let them stay, refreshed and not being out there getting those 12-yard drives, 12 play drive, 16 play drive. That's a killer. I've always noticed in the numbers that I've always looked at, when a team gets past 9 plays, it's going to be a field goal usually, or it's going to be a 6, 1 to 2. When they get to 12 plays and stuff, defense has been out there too long. Got to keep them off the field.
Elbert, Ellis, former NFL wide receiver and Olympian track and field, my guest today here on Inside the Vault, episode number 48. Elbert, before we get into primetime scouting, a few more about the Panthers, and we'll get into primetime. let's talk a little bit about the current iteration of the coachings and GMs. Dave Canales, first year head coach for the Panthers, and then Dan Morgan, now elevated to from assistant GM to general manager. Your thoughts, having been are familiar with Dan Morgan, and obviously not as a player and now as a general manager, and what he can do for the Panthers and going forward in this new era. And then Dave Canales, a quarterback whisperer is maybe not the right word, but that's what people say. Revived Geno Smith's career. Baker Mayfield, who was once with the Panthers, obviously now with Tampa Bay, and then Russell Wilson for a very brief time when he was in Seattle doing his thing there too. Thoughts on both of those guys and their new roles, with the Panthers?
Well, we're going to see, but I think they might have the right guys. Usually, you want to go in house when you promote somebody instead of having somebody come from out house and then they tear the whole thing down and reel it back up. If you got a good nucleus of guys, you got a good nucleus of coaches, you got a good nucleus of GM, and the owner supporting you, make it work. So hopefully that's what they're going to do. They're going to make it work. So you got a new guy, new coach. The guy has already been there. He moves up to top GM position. I think they can do some good things. If they can win, they're at the bottom of the division right now, but just one game at a time, one win at a time, you can see this thing flip around. I think they're better than the top dog right now, to be honest with you. I think they can beat these guys and get in a great position. I think they can beat the Saints, but they got to be ready. Got the Saints, they're loaded. The Buccaneers they're not playing bad football either. We're even with the Falcons, but I think we could be number one in the division if we play Panther football and pound it out.
Yeah. Let's last one for you, Panther related.
Yes.
Hall of Fame. We had Julius Peppers go into the Hall this year. A guy that I don't think a lot of people would argue was a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt in our mind. Thoughts on him going into the Hall, joining Sam Mills as the only Panthers officially in the Hall. Your thoughts on Peppers, his career, just the guy that he is, and going into the Hall.
I was there last year when they put him in. Well deserved first round, all around Panther of Panthers. Great guy, humble guy, hard working guy, still big as a house, scary looking fella, still to this day. But he deserves it, man. He's a Carolina guy, if that makes
Yes, he
any sense.
is.
He's a
Yes, he is.
Carolina guy. There's no other. Born and bred, the whole thing. Played for the Tar Heels. Incredible basketball player too. But that dude was an athlete. Athlete.
God spent his time working on him. That's for
Oh
sure.
boy, I got put a little. I said I feel cheated sometimes. Like, hey, I'm fast and stuff, but I don't. Hey, dude got a 40-something plus inch vertical. That's not fair. Left-handed. But yeah, great dude, man.
Yeah.
Incredible guy. Deserves all the accolades for that. Definitely.
Yeah. And for 2025, the Hall of Fame just released their initial 167 preliminary nominees. But on there, we've got Steve Smith, obviously, is currently on there from a few years ago. And then Luke Kuechly, eligible for this year's class. Ryan Khalil for the first time as well, former center for the Panthers. And then among others who are on this list, who do you think is the next Panther to be into the Hall of Fame? I personally think, Luke Kuechly is a first ballot. I think his career, being a little cut short by concussions, might hurt him initially, but I do feel like he's someone who should be in their first ballot. And then Steve Smith, that guy was a bad man on the field. Again, so I know there's guys like Torrey Holt and a few other ones that had to wait a long time or are waiting a long time. So Steve, unfortunately, might have to wait a little bit. But those are two Panthers that I think surely need to get into the Hall of Fame.
I totally agree with you 1,000%. It would probably hurt Luke that he had to leave due to the concussions and stuff, and your health is more important than this game. But Steve Smith, one of my favorite things, that's an angry little man. Oh my, that guy, he was pissed off, as Ray Lewis says, for greatness. That, to me, he should be in this year. There's no, and I hate to be a biased receiver. I am 6'6". That dude is 5'9". And I know he's a better receiver than I was. There's no way he should not be in. So I agree with you. I wish they would take him and Luke at the same time, I think there would be a double pound for a double pound. I mean, I would love that. But those two guys definitely deserve to be in there.
Well, as we'll see what the Panthers do this weekend as the Cincinnati Bengals come to town, Andy Dalton and company, as we try to put our record to 2-2, 500 on the year, as Andy Dalton starts his redemption tour against his former teams, Cincinnati #1, and then Chicago, the Panthers play the following week. That's another former team, and then later down the season they play the Saints again, and they play Dallas. So we get Andy Dalton's former teams all this year. It should be a fun ride there. Let's get into now primetime scouting for the rest of our time together. Your current venture after playing, getting to do this with Mark Everett, who you talked about. So talk about primetime scouting, your role there, and what you're doing to help out the athletes, boys and girls of today.
So I'm the volunteer lead scout and head recruiter with Primetime. Mark and I met way back in 1990, and I did not know that he was interviewing me for a position in the company. Mark and anybody else who ran track, like I went to Olympic trials when I was 18 and saw Roger King was my big brother, people like Lee McCrae, Edwin Moses, one of my heroes, all these different people, Joetta Clark, these are some wonderful, wonderful athletes. They all have a story of something that was a struggle for them in high school, during college, after college, whatever. So Mark, I don't know what happened to him when he was younger, but something drives him. He asks me every day, Ellis, who we signing up? Who are we helping? Someone is praying for our help. So what we do in Primetime, we have a money back guarantee. We have a paid service, but we don't sell anything. We offer service. So we're the most inexpensive service in the world. The people that work for all of our clients in Primetime, students and parents and regular students, are the best of the best in academics and athletics. So they're Hall of Famers behind the scene, breaking down film. If you go to our website, we call him King Carl Lewis, the head coach at University of Houston. He's on our website. So imagine you got a kid that runs track and they do double duty playing football, but they're a very good track athlete. And we're able to send that to Carl, and he's able to say, okay, the arms are wrong, the start's wrong, they need to do this, do this, do this. He's a long jump expert. So we have people like that who are experts in those fields. Every kid in Primetime gets an internship. We vet the schools, we vet the coaches and make sure it's the right fit. We have academic aid available. We deal with every division that there is: Division III, Division II, Division I, every NAIA, JUCO, HBCU, and prep school from here to Hawaii and Alaska. We're even international. If the kid is out of the country, if they put their foot on U.S. soil, we can get them a scholarship. We also have a book, and we also have a lot of academic help from a lot of schools. But I have a book that has about $1.5 million worth of scholarships in it. People don't know anything about it. And the only way you can get that book is to come through us in Primetime. So while people are at school, while they're competing, while they're talking, doing whatever, we're scouting. So just like right now, while I'm on this Zoom with you, my other scouts throughout the country are scouting around the clock, talking to coaches, talking to schools on behalf of our parents and our students and student athletes. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do. We do a lot more, but we can open the full gamut once someone comes into Primetime. And once a kid comes into Primetime, we never let them go. It's a lifetime commitment for us.
And yeah, on your just looking at your website a little bit, for those who might be listening to this who are student athletes or have a child that might be an athlete, why Primetime? What makes you different? What sets Primetime apart?
We are actually people that you can touch, and like you just looked me up on the website. You can go look up myself and my track and field stats. You can go look up Coach Everett. We are real, tangible people, and we have a personal touch. We handle one client at a time. There are a bunch of different services out there, but they don't have cell phone numbers to coaches. I keep over 1,300 coaches on my hot dial, speed dial that I talk to every week for my students and student athletes for the sports that we have in Primetime. And I have a band student, which I can give her a little toot for her. She has band scholarships coming as well. So we don't just do sports. So if the kid plays video games, That's very important. If you're in the band, that's important. If you play chess, that's important. There's a lot of academic money and a lot of help out there because we care and we want to get the job done. And we are relentless in recruiting. When they tell us no, we're back in their face again, over and over again until we find the right fit. A lot of other companies sending kids over here if they get them over there, but they don't have the reach we have. Plus, they don't know if it's a good fit or not. We do. And if something goes wrong, we're going to transfer the kid. You hear about this transfer portal out here, and people are doing. There are 20,000 kids from last year trapped in the transfer portal right now. Career is over because no one knows about them. But when we talk to these coaches, because we talk to them all the time, they trust us and they take our kids.
And if for those who might be Gator fans out there, Coach Everett was a Florida Gator alum and history
So,
there in Gainesville. So,
so,
I'm a
so I
Gator
got a,
fan myself. So,
so I got a sneaky Gator story messed me up. Everybody doesn't know where the Gator Chomp came from. Coach Everett started the Gator Chomp. People don't know that he crossed the line. I think he's the only athlete, or maybe one or two in the history of Florida, to win the 800 4 times in a row, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year. And I think his freshman and sophomore year, when he crossed the line, he was giving them the chomp, and so that's where it came from. People don't know that, but it was him. So
that's
Coach
funny.
Evans started the whole Gator Chomp thing. Yeah, way back
That's
in
funny.
1980, I think it was 87. He started that thing. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, as I said at the top, my guest today has been Coach Elbert Ellis, lead scout for Prime Time Scouting, and just all around good guy. Elbert, where can our people find you in your information, social media? Where can they connect with you as they go forward?
great. If they go to our website at www.primetimescouting.com, they can locate us there. And if they do leave a message, please leave your cell phone number, email address, first and last name. If you have film, go ahead and send it to us so we can have our pros look at it to see if you're a great fit for us and we're a good fit for you, because we don't take everybody, but for those we take, they're getting a guaranteed scholarship. My phone number is 984-356-0818. That's my business line. I answer it all the time. Email pts dot, just like my name, Elbert Ellis @gmail.com. And on X or Twitter, E87. Okay, you can go to my Facebook page. You're going to see my beautiful wife there. I have on a tux like I love James Bond, I believe, in the background picture. So you know that's me. You see the same bald head. I have on a blue shirt for my face there. So those are the ways you can contact me. And you do that, and I will get back to you as soon as we can. And most importantly, right now, we're going to have a cutoff soon for seniors. I just talked to the board, and I just talked to Coach Everett today. They're going to be cutting it off for seniors because scholarships are time sensitive. And if we don't have you in, it's going to be almost impossible if we don't have you in. So if you're in with us, get with us soon, get with us quick. All underclassmen, kids in middle school, grade school, you guys are good. But seniors, the clock is ticking on you. You do not have much time at all.
Well, Coach, thanks again for coming on with us here on Inside the Vault, talking a little Panthers, talking a little football, and then obviously talking about your duties now over at Primetime Scouting. All the best, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Ryan, thank you so much. I'll be in Charlotte this weekend for the game. So, it's our Panthers reunion game. So all of the big boys are coming back in. I'm gonna try to take some good pictures for you, get them to you for you and your podcasts and stuff. So keep pounding, brother. Thank you for having me on.
And that'll wrap up episode number 48 of Inside the Vault, a Carolina Panthers podcast. Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. I'm your host, Brian Smith, and we will see you next time.